Yes, Councilman Campbell?
Am I on?
Yes.
I'm on. Okay. Gary and I lived on the same street in the same subdivision. However, I didn't really get to know him and know about him until I became a council member and he was appointed to fill the vacancy. And I'm really sorry I didn't have the opportunity to serve on a committee with him because I would have driven him nuts. I remember the first time we saw Gary in the neighborhood, he had this long ponytail. And that must have been when he first moved to Goodyear, and my husband and I said, wow, look at that. He's from the hippie area. This was from an Air Force veteran who had no hair. Gary helped the Pebble Creek Model Railroad Club make money by holding a movie night in our brand new theater. Gary has probably every train movie ever made, and he graciously showed them week after week for $1 donation, with the money going to the Railroad Club. He was instrumental in building the layout for the club in their club room and for the outside layout, which still today trains are running on special occasions for visitors to Pebble Creek to enjoy, thanks to Gary. Gary was a man who enjoyed being involved in the city of Goodyear. I understand he attended Planning and Zoning Commission meetings before being appointed to him. He loved being with the movers and the shakers of the city. Not long ago, he told me he enjoyed being a P&Z commissioner even more than being on council. He had ideas of how he wanted to see Goodyear grow and prosper, and he wanted to be a part of that decision-making process to see that it was completed. He had the wonderful opportunity to serve on many committees for our city, and his contribution to those committees are endless. Gary, on some subjects, was very outspoken because he believed so strongly about the subject. One knew immediately where they stood with Gary. Gary loved to debate the issues, especially when he knew he was so right. And darn it, he was right all the time. When he became a council member, he didn't even have to go through the new member orientation. He already knew every department head in the city and would drop by almost daily to find out any news and gossip that he had not heard. We knew that knowledge was king in here, and he loved to find out something first. When I questioned him how he found out, he always would just roll his eyes and say, I know nothing. Our city has lost a friend and a great visionary. Gary will be missed, but not forgotten.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Okay. I wrote this down because I'm going to do my best to get through it. And I called my notes. Gary was my friend. So I got to say something really funny first. We all remember Gary in the planning and zoning times and during the city center days that everybody would refer to the Gelser Towers that he envisioned within our city. He had, quite frankly, great vision and great thoughts about the future of Goodyear. Okay, I'll start. I have taught teenagers for years and years about leadership and leadership skills. Gary's the perfect person to teach about. And that's probably something that we never really talked about and considered Gary, but Gary was a leader. He really was. I met Gary at planning and zoning meetings when I was a commissioner, and he had that long ponytail, and he came in shorts to all the meetings, and I was the only female. And I have to tell you, probably from the days of the Vietnam War, even though he probably couldn't stand her, but I can imagine he liked Jane Fonda because he loved strong female leaders. And he was always there for us. He always built us up. He always encouraged female leaders. And I was the only one, and so he always was giving me great pointers. And I think he always saw great qualities in ladies. He never missed a meeting. He never missed a commission meeting or a council meeting. And I used to ask him, why did he always go? And he says, hey, I'm here doing my civic duty, and I'm listening, and I'm giving my opinions. And when he would always go to council meetings, he would say, hey, I have to be the one to tell the emperor he's not wearing his clothes. Those were his comments. But then when he took an actual leadership role and he got on the Planning and Zoning Commission, he would say to me, I have to behave now. I have to behave. And he really did. He really would do. And there was times we didn't, care for some of his words, but his choice in comments sometimes weren't. But Gary was one of those people that you would say, "Oh, that's just Gary," and everybody knew what you were talking about when you would say, "That's just Gary." But he would behave, and he was honest, and he's a solid person, and you always knew where he stood. He listened, he was dedicated, and he was loyal. He built me up so many times. I will miss what he called amongst us girls. That's how he would, when we would talk, and he saw strengths and weaknesses in people, but he was always there to build up your strengths. And even though he and I probably could be at polar opposite ends many times, and I swear he's looking for his digital billboard to get into heaven right now, and it's leading the way, I'm sure. But we always listened to each other, and we had that respect, and we could, civilly disagree, and still be girlfriends. And I really will miss that about him. He loved this city. He had vision. He saw in his mind his Gilzer Towers, and I always wanted to hear his opinion on an issue, even if I was going to fight him to the end about it. Yes, Gary was my friend, and I'm happy to say that the Tuesday before he died, I got to go spend some time with him and talk. And as usual, he was more concerned about me. And I walked in the door, and he'd heard Fry's closed. And he was all, "You have big decisions to make." He was all concerned about me, and that was what was most important to him. And then we talked about things that I knew that he wanted to see happen in the city, and how could I help those things come to pass. And then he ended our discussions with building me up again and reminding me the person I was. And I will miss my friend.
Good. Thank you. Mr. Pasillo, Councilman Pasillo.
I tend to agree with Councilmember Stipp. I think he did take you as a project. Not only was Gary a valued colleague, he was a dear friend. I will miss him.
Yes, Councilman Loretano.
It's hard to echo what everyone else is saying. I was lucky enough to serve with Gary at first on the planning and zoning with Joanne. The three of us were there, and then when he became the chairman of them, he loved to tell people when they were presenting their case to him, he goes, "You're winning. Be quiet."
Yeah, sit down.
He'd say, "Sit down."
That's true.
Or he'd say, "No, you might want to ask for a continuance on this one because you're just not going to win." I mean, you knew where you stood. He was an honest, genuine person, and you don't find that a lot. You knew everything that he stood, and he was the reason I got on planning and zoning, and he's also one of the reasons I applied when I was on planning and zoning. He's like, "There's an opening. Why don't you apply? Why don't you?" And he was such a supportive, sweet man. And it was so nice to listen to his train stories, and his soccer stories, and his trips. You could live vicariously through Gary, and everywhere he went on these great trips and everything. And he really did embody, just living your life. I remember we were at the spring train opening, and Gary just got a baseball, went up to Tommy Lasorda and got him to sign it. I mean, this was a man that just grabbed the moment, grabbed the zest for life, and I am so proud to have had the opportunity to sit next to him, even though I had to kind of do this way when we had the digital billboard to keep the two of them apart. And, he was fighting for those digital billboards since planning and zoning. He got them. So, Gary and his family, God bless you, and thank you for everything you've done for us, not just for this generation, but what he's done is going to live on in the city forever. So thank you, and thank you, Charlotte, for letting us have him.
Well, I said a lot of things you read them in the paper, and you've read some of my statements in other ways, and they were all true, and everything you've said tonight is so true about Gary. He was a real character. He was strong. I love strong people. I love people who are opinionated and come forth, may have to agree to disagree, but by golly, that's the way you need to state how you feel. He did, just before he died, visit me, and we talked about him staying on council. We talked about what his direction was going to be and when he thought that this possibly will happen. And he said to me, I'm going to take care of you. He wanted to stay alive for the election. He kept saying to me, I want to be here for that. But you could see that did not happen. But the last time I talked to him in the hospital, just before he went home, he said, don't worry, I'm talking to every council person. I'm going to get them an order. You do not have to worry. So I have no idea what he said to the council, but he was determined. So keep it a secret, guys, so we don't have open meeting violations, because I have no idea what he said to you. But he wanted to make sure the team was strong. And so, Charlotte, thank you for sharing him so much with us, because he was gone from the house a lot, and he was gone because of the city. Well, he was gone a lot for his soccer, I know. But so once more, just thank you so much. And again, we are just blessed that we had the opportunity to be friends with Gary. Thank you. Okay, Christine, I see you're there, and Christine will introduce Mr. William Black, who is representing the Waste Management Corporation Giving Program, and will be presenting a check to the City of Goodyear for Adopt a Street and the Adopt a Park programs. Christy?
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and I am very happy to be here tonight to tell you about a terrific accomplishment, not just by staff, but by our city volunteers, and to introduce you to our new regional partner. Earlier this year, volunteer coordinator Judy Switanek and our city volunteer, Evelyn Howell, met with me to see if there were grants that might help support and fund equipment for the Adopt a Street and Adopt a Park program. We had the unique problem of having streets and parks and volunteers, but we really didn't have enough equipment and supplies to put these people to work. So after meeting with Park Supervisor Jeremy Figueroa to get an idea of what they needed, how much it would cost, and how we would manage these supplies, Evelyn and Judy started researching local corporations, local companies that had corporate giving programs that specifically tailored it to community relations. And no surprise that they found Waste Management was a perfect match. We worked together to complete the application and submitted it, and then got into the hard part, which was waiting, and that was in early May. About mid-August, Sanitation Superintendent Willie Elizondo, who's also here, I hope, called me to find out if we had heard anything about the application, because he had found out that there was a new guy at Waste Management. So Willie asked me to send him the application so that he could take a look at it. He said he knew the new guy, and not even a few weeks later, I got a call from Kathy Mitchell at Waste Management asking me who to make the check for $6,550 out to. So now I'd like to introduce you to the new guy. Mr. William Black is the new Public Sector Solutions Manager for Waste Management of Arizona. And I'm going to ask him to come up here and tell you a little bit about himself. And then I'm going to invite the mayor and City Manager Dalkey over here to take a picture with this great team. Really big check.
Wow. Welcome, Mr. Black.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. As Christine said, I'm Willie Black. I'm the Public Sector Solutions Manager for Waste Management. I'm here this evening representing Waste Management, who provides the solid waste and recycling services here in the city of Goodyear. And although we're a national company, we have 38 employees who call Goodyear home. And on behalf of those 38 employees in Waste Management, I'd like to present the check for $6,550 for the Adopt a Park and Adopt a Street program.
Thank you.
It's a big check.
Yeah.
How's that going to go through the bank?
Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more?
The next item on communication, Jerry Postema will introduce Mr. Clemente Riley, Senior Utility Technician with the City of Goodyear, for going above and beyond to serve Goodyear residents. Jerry?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In our business, as a public utility or as a City of Goodyear employee, typically the motto is silence is golden. If you don't hear anything, you're doing your job. People are happy. We're privileged tonight because a resident did speak up, and they did send a letter on behalf of Clemente Riley and say what a wonderful job he did. What I'd like to do is, before Clemente comes up, is give you a little bit of his background. Clemente has been a dedicated public servant for over 6 years with the City of Goodyear, most recently as a senior utility technician in wastewater collections. He leads by example and is willing to go the extra mile for coworkers and residents alike. In 2007, Clemente received the department's Employee of the Year Award and the City Manager's Excellence Award. With that, Clemente Riley.
I wanted to read this to the public because it's a very nice letter from one of our residents. So, I hope I see it better than I saw the last thing I was reading. But it says, Honorable Mayor, I have been a resident of Goodyear for 7 years and have always had a very positive contacts with when necessary with city employees. On Friday, August 24th, I had an exceptional contact with Mr. Clemente Riley, Senior Utility Technician, Public Works Collection Division. Mr. Riley went above and beyond what was necessary to respond to my neighborhood and rescue my grandson's new longboard, which is a skateboard, and I'm glad they put that in because I wasn't sure what a longboard was. I knew we didn't have any snow here, so I was questioning that. From the sewer, where I ended up after he fell off. Mr. Riley was contacted at what I am sure was his quitting time and very near to it. Instead of putting my wife off until the next day, he stopped on his way home, retrieved the longboard, and made a young 13-year-old feel very happy. Mr. Riley should be commended for his willingness to go above and beyond, as such actions make Goodyear an excellent place to live. Please ensure that his supervisors are aware of his outstanding performance and gratitude of a 13-year-old lad and his grandparents. Sincerely, Michael and Patricia Kunst. So, thank you.
Thank you, and I really appreciate the acknowledgement. Council.
Okay, now we're on to citizens' comments and appearance from the floor. Do we have any cards? Have any speaker cards?
One card.
All right.
Nancy McPhillin.
Ms. McPhillin, please come forward. Let me read this as we go, okay, Nancy, so you know this. The council will listen to comments, may take any one of the following. We may respond to criticism, request the staff investigates and reports on the matter, request that the matter be scheduled on future agendas. You will have 3 minutes, as you well know. The yellow light and the buzzer will let you know you have 30 seconds left to speak. So before you begin, identify yourself, clearly stating the record, your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Nancy McPhillin. I'm a resident of Australia Mountain Ranch.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm here tonight because I've been trying to get a problem or a resolution put in place to an issue within not only Australia Mountain Ranch, but my immediate subdivision since August. In actuality, it's been about 6 years since we have a concern regarding our retention basins, many of which throughout EMR do not percolate. I don't know if this comes up, obviously, it's not showing up very well, but our retention basin was supposed to have something called a bleed-off system constructed. My understanding is that's supposed to be done prior to the selling of the homes. This was approved by the city in February of '05. Newland purchased our community in May of '05. Our homes in my subdivision did not start selling until July of '05. I was one of the first 10 to actually settle, which was the following year in June. We started immediately seeing problems with the retention basin not percolating. I am from the East Coast. I'm very much aware of West Nile virus. We've had it there, I guess, probably between 18 and 20 years. I immediately started complaints with the management company, Newland, as the years going on. No one really seems to pay too much attention to it. I've come to board meetings with 40 dead mosquitoes that I took off of my windowsill and presented Newland with them. Again, no real resolution. Vector control was called out many, many times. They came out and treated the area. It was then, I guess, decided between the city and Newland that the landscape company would start pumping the retention basins. However, we really do not have a very good management group in our community at this point, and the supervision of the landscapers is pretty much ineffective. So continually we have these standing waters that go on and on and on. In August of this year, I again contacted Vector Control only to find out that the gentleman that I dealt with previously had retired 3 years prior. They came out, they treated it. Again, the water was standing for 17 days. Called the city, again, asked the questions, finally find out that the bleed flow system was not installed. So I guess my question is, who approved this? Why was it approved? How are the residents being protected? Further, at our voting member committee meeting the other evening, we found out that one of our residents has West Nile and was in the hospital for 6 days. My understanding is that person is a City of Goodyear employee. Vector Control does not put out alerts on their website. The City of Goodyear does not put out alerts. People in our community are not aware of it. If they chose to stay home and not walk through the community at nighttime when supposedly a lot of these mosquitoes come out, you know, we would have a way of protecting ourselves. We do not have that. In the same voting member meeting the other night.
I'm sorry, but
Well, let me finish my one comment.
All right.
The other evening in the voting member committee meeting, our community manager, Lisa Lusko, told us that this is the problem of the city because you approved it. And I think the public has the right to know if that's the truth and how you plan to protect us. Our residents do not want to pay
Thank you, Nancy.
for a mistake of the
I think I've
developer
heard
in the
enough.
city.
Thank you very much, Nancy. So how do we want to handle this, city manager?
Mayor, members of the council, Mrs. McPhillin, staff is aware of this. Staff is there are technical issues involved certainly, but our staff is working on it. We actually there are a few other issues that we've been working with you on as well, and we are prepared. We're very close to having that to you as far as the responses to several of the issues that have come up, this being one of those. So I'm not sure if it's tomorrow or the next day, but I do know that we're in final review of that this week, and you will have an answer from us.
So did you get making sure that all the questions or all the statements she made tonight, like, 17 days of standing water, 6 years retention basins, the bleed off of was it septic, did you say? The bleed off of what? Retention basin, okay. So just make sure that, not percolating. Make sure that if those are any other questions from what you asked when you wrote the city, we want to make sure those are in it for them tonight, so that they get answered. Okay.
Do they need copies?
Yes, that would be great if you want to give a copy of that. You mean your questions?
Well, I can give a copy of the questions, but I'm sure you have copies.
Oh, they have all the retention maps, and they have all of that. So
do you have a copy of the landscape contract that was supposed to do the
If you'd like to
pumping
give it
of
to
that?
them, go ahead and give it to them, Nancy. That's fine with me.
Okay. Do you have copies right there? We'll make one and get it right back to you, okay? Thank you.
And thank you, Nancy. Okay, is there anybody else in the audience that wanted to speak tonight that didn't fill out a card? Okay, with that, then we'll go on. I would like the city clerk, please, to read the consent agenda items from A to G by title only, please.
Item A, approve draft minutes of a special meeting and a regular meeting held on September 24th, 2012, and a regular meeting held on October 1st, 2012. Item B, approve the utilization of existing contracts for the expenditure of an amount not to exceed $350,000 for the application of a pass QB street preservation treatment and temporary traffic control. Item C, adopt Resolution 12-1510 to ratify the submission and acceptance of the Governor's Office of Highway Safety Grant Award for $24,000 and authorize the city manager or designee to execute any and all documents for the award and administration of the grant. Item D, adopt Resolution 12-1511 authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the cities of Avondale, Litchfield Park, and Tolleson for semi-annual multi-city household hazardous waste collection day events. Item E, adopt Resolution 12-1512 approving a long-term storage credit sale and purchase agreement with the City of El Mirage and authorizing and directing the city manager or his designee to take all actions and execute all documents necessary to carry out the intent of the resolution and the long-term storage credit sale and purchase agreement. Item F, approve an order of 3,650 acre-feet from Central Arizona Project, CAP, for 2013. Of the 3,650 acre-feet, 1,825.19 acre-feet will be paid by the city out of its own funds for a total of $250,051.03. The city will fund the remaining 1,824.81 acre-feet from the sale of a long-term storage credits to the City of El Mirage for a total of $277,621.12. Item G, adopt Resolution 12-1507, providing notice of the primary and general elections and authorizing the city clerk to enter into any agreements necessary to provide services for the March 12, 2013 primary and May 21, 2013 general elections.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? Does anyone in the council wish to remove an item? Yes, Councilman Stipp?
I will just have a question.
You have a question?
Do you want me to go ahead and...
Well, we could do a motion, and then do the discussion. Let's do it that way, because sometimes this gets a little bit long. Okay, so I need a motion and a second to approve. Well, no, I guess we better go with this, Ron. Go first. Go ahead.
It's real simple. It's the water question.
For Mark.
It is my understanding that the City of El Mirage has already executed their half of this contract. Is that correct?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, yes, that's correct. El Mirage approved the agreement on last Tuesday's, their October 16th council session. So it's been approved. The original has been sent over to the city, and if voted on tonight and approved, it would be a legal binding agreement.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? None? Okay. Could I hear a motion, please, and a second?
So moved.
Sorry.
I think I heard a motion from Councilman Campbell and a second from Councilman Stipp. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're on to the business, and the first item is A. The first item of business to consider the authorizing the city manager to execute a First Amendment to the participation agreement for the Corget Wash Water Reclamation Facility improvements, to consider executing a construction contract with MGC Contractors, Inc., and to consider executing a change order for improvements to steel sludge digester tank. Jack Friedland to present. Mr. Friedland?
Well said, Mayor. Without your glasses, I couldn't do that.
Without my glasses, and to say that title, 4 words, it's not an easy
Council.
one.
You're a much better person than I, trust me. Without these, I couldn't do anything. We had a long discussion during our work session last week. So with that, I have staff, a lot of lifelines here in the audience to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, well, let me go to the audience first. And are there any speaker cards on this?
No.
None, okay. Is there anybody from the audience that would like to speak? All right. Well, then we're going to vote on each item separately, and let's get a motion in second, then we'll open for discussion, okay? So I'd like to ask for a motion to authorize the city manager to execute the First Amendment to the participation agreement for the Corget Wash Water Reclamation Facility improvements between the City of Goodyear and NNP3 Estrella Mountain Ranch, LLC. Do I hear a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
I hear a motion from Councilman Lotano and a second from Councilman Pizzillo. Open for discussion. Oh, yes, Councilman Lotano.
I just had a quick question, and Jerry and we talked about it briefly, about the noise. You're redoing it. It's not loud now, so I don't want to make it sound like it's loud, but a couple people did ask me when I told them on the next street that that's going to be redone. Do you expect it to be any louder, or?
I think I can answer that. I don't expect to be any louder than it is now, and to the best of my recollection and past history would reflect that there are no problems with that.
Oh, no, there aren't any problems, but people heard they were redoing it, and I just wanted to check 100% because it's very quiet now. It just sounds like a pool pump at the most.
Yeah. We're hoping most people don't know where the plant is.
No, they don't really. I had to point out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, let's vote on this. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Let's go on to the next one. And I need a motion to authorize the city manager to execute a construction contract with MGC Contractors, Inc. in the amount of $1,343,428.50 for the construction improvements of the Corget Wash Water Reclamation Facility, and authorize the execution of such contract following the execution of the First Amendment to the participation agreement for the Corget Wash Water Reclamation Facility improvements between the City of Goodyear, NNP3, and Estrella Mountain, LLC. Could I have a motion, please, and a second?
So moved.
Second.
I hear a motion by Councilman Stipp and a second by Vice Mayor Osborne. Open for discussion. Councilman Pizzillo.
Just a quick clarification. As I recall on this particular contract, there's a percentage of this which is, was it Newlands?
Yes, sir.
And percentage ours out of the 1.3 million. What is our responsibility?
Mayor, City Council, the breakout of the total project cost, city's share is $950,810, and Newlands is $694,923.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right.
No, I'm sorry.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Just one last thing. Don't forget you're going to send the information on when that, was it 6 years ago when it originally became the city's? I was just going to remind you of that. Thank you.
Sure will. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's vote on this. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. We'll go on to the next one. And I ask for a motion to authorize the city manager to execute a change order in the amount not to exceed $100,000 to undertake improvements on the Corget Wash Water Reclamation Facility to the steel sludge digester tank.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
A motion by Councilman Campbell and a second by Councilman Stipp. Open for council discussion.
Yes, Mayor.
All right. Councilman Campbell?
Thank you, Jack. I toured this facility, and I love looking at the pictures that you showed us last meeting. However, to see it in person, I realize what we need to do there. And it's amazing that we've been able to keep it going as well as it is, because it is old. And I know this is very much needed, and thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you.
Councilman Pizzillo?
No, I was just going to follow on that, the fact that this possible change orders, they've got to look into that tank to see what the potential damage of that is. And it was an excellent presentation at the work session the week before. So I just want to make sure that was added. This is the reason why that's here.
Yes, I'm sorry, any other council people? I had, a couple years ago, had viewed the facility and noted that hopefully it would still work if we didn't get to it at that time, and there was some difficulty with agreements. And so I was real pleased when I saw this come to the table, and so I thank Newland, and I thank our staff for coming to a consensus to be able to get this done. Okay, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Let's go on. The next item on business is to approve the relocation of $350,000 in a capital improvement program project savings to number ST0508 for the installation of the traffic signal at cerebral and Portland Avenue. Luke Albert to present.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I am pleased to present the
You're going to have to speak up. If you want the mayor here to hear you, you're going to have to speak up a little bit more.
Thank you.
Okay?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm pleased to present the installation of the traffic signal at Cerebral Avenue and Portland Street for your consideration. Portland Street is located approximately 1/4 mile south of I-10. It's identified by the red dot in this exhibit. Shown on this slide are some project milestones that have been completed to date related to this intersection. The Cerebral Avenue ramps at I-10 opened in July of this year, and then about a month later, the Cotton Lane at I-10 was closed. Then the next milestones were city staff collected traffic data at this intersection in September, and we completed traffic signal warrant analysis at this intersection also in September. And the warrant analysis showed that not only is a traffic signal is warranted right now and very much needed at this intersection, and we also anticipate it to continue to be warranted after Cotton Lane is reopened again in 2014. And then finally, we have completed the traffic signal design for this intersection earlier this month. Shown on this slide are some upcoming milestones related to the intersection if it's approved tonight by City Council. The first one would be that we would deploy off-duty police officers at this intersection to assist with vehicles pulling from Portland Street onto Cerebral Avenue and also crossing Cerebral Avenue at Portland Street. We'd also deploy portable traffic signals by December of this year, and then finally we would complete the installation of a permanent traffic signal by February of next year. The total project cost is anticipated at $450,000. We currently have about $100,000 of city-owned and equipment that we would provide. So the funding needed at this point is $350,000. The source of the funding that we recommend utilizing is savings from other capital projects. With that, I'd like to open up for any questions you may have.
I'm going to wait on that and ask, are there any speaker cards on this?
No.
And nobody in the audience wants to address this? All right, thank you. So let's go ahead and ask for motion before we start discussion. Could I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Osborne, second by Councilman Vazzillo. Open for council discussion. Councilman Vazzillo?
On the reallocation savings, what kind of funding is that? Is that impact fees, general fund? And do you know specifically which projects the money's coming from?
It is impact fees, as I understand, and it's primarily from we had quite a few MAG projects that we were able to reduce the city's match through the MAG process during the last year. We also were able to utilize the MAG process to get the federal funds to pay for some of the city's match on another project that was just advertised, and then we had some savings based on what was budgeted for what we owed to ADOT on the I-10-303 project as to what the actual costs were.
So it's no general fund money?
No general fund money.
Great. Councilman Campbell.
Yes, can you tell us what the traffic count is at that intersection, please?
The traffic, I don't have I don't have a copy of the count with me, but it's very much warranted right now for a traffic signal.
Otherwise, it would not get the light.
I can provide a copy of the traffic study.
I'd like that.
Absolutely.
Any other question?
Yeah, I've got.
Bill? No?
No, Bill.
No? Everybody? Bill?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Councilman Stipp?
Luke, the that light today, or that intersection today, sits with nobody there. No police officer, no temporary light, no nothing. But we're talking about putting a human being out in traffic during peak times until we get a temporary light up. Is that what I'm gathering from this?
That's the recommendation. Yes, sir.
So we've gone from nothing to, oh my God, we got to have somebody out there in a very short period of time. Is that how I'm understanding this?
Mayor Lori, Councilmember Stipp, I mean, the combination of the back-to-back ramps opening with Cotton Lane closing just significantly changed the traffic patterns at the intersection. So that's correct.
Okay. Is there any way we can expedite the installation of a temporary? The temporary ones are on trailers, right? What I'm worried on twofold issue. Number one is police officer safety, being out in traffic, directing traffic. That's a police officer issue. Secondarily to that, we obviously are doing this on off-duty time, which is time and a half. So we've got a financial impact behind that as well. Is there any way we can move the temporary lighting from December to November, bring this up 30 days, get the guys off the street 30 days faster?
I'm going to interject a couple things first. I would like the police chief to address the police officer and that. And then, because I had asked that question before on the cost of the temporary on wheels, and so we need someone to address that. Sorry, Bill, I just wanted to get that separated, okay?
No, that's
so, Councilman Stipp's question on the cost and the
safety.
danger of the police officer at that area.
Yeah, the cost will be, and it will be time and a half at most of the time, somewhere there. It depends on the officer working it, but the cost is going to be somewhere in the area of $40 an hour, maybe a little bit more.
And how many hours a day are we talking about having somebody out there?
Mayor Lord, Councilmember Stipp, would be 8 hours a day. It's a 4-hour minimum in the morning and the 4-hour minimum in the afternoon for the police officers.
Okay. My bigger concern, obviously, is officer safety.
There's a safety concern. All I can say is, our officers are outfitted with the vest, and they're going to have the lights on in the cars, and
Yeah, I realize it's a dangerous job, but
it is.
And do we have the costing of, because I did ask that question one time, and I forgot who answered it, for the temporary lights that they bring on wheels. Do we know that? We haven't, just an idea?
Mayor Lord, Councilmember Stipp, we currently own 2 of those trailers, and we'll be renting 2 of the trailers. And the cost of the 2 that we'd be renting would be somewhere. Right now, the contract is estimating $10,000 a month for the rental of the 2 trailers, but he's currently looking for prices to bring that price down.
So it's either that or the police right now. Is that what you're saying?
Mayor Lord, that's correct.
So it's $10,000 for that, one of those, or it's $40 an hour.
I'm not even looking at it from a money. I mean, based on that,
yeah.
That's one aspect of it. I'm more concerned about a police officer standing in the roadway and the risk that we run there, because a police officer struck by an automobile is going to cost us a lot more than $10,000 a month, and so I'm not worried about that.
I guess my question is for the council tonight: are you considering delaying this because of your questioning and because you don't know what the 2? So if you are, that's just putting a child in danger during this interim period of time, that we make a decision which of those 2 we'd have to bring it back. Is that correct? So I just want to clarify where we are on this. So
I'm not driving that.
Okay,
I'm not going in that
I need to
direction.
know that, because we've gotten letters and telephone calls, and parents are real upset and worried about their kids. So we have to make a decision right now, and if we're going to pass this or not pass this, and is this going to prevent us from doing that? I put that out. So.
Well,
Madam Mayor, my comments are driving toward, we need to do this faster than we're proposing.
Okay, I just want to make sure. But
I hate to say it like this, but we're dragging out temporary lights until December. If it's an issue, we need to get on it, and we need to get it done as quickly as we can.
Okay, so you are wanting an explanation of why they can't get the light out before December? All right, could you give that, please?
Yeah, Mayor, City Council, one of the issues is bringing power to that intersection. But the dates that we gave you, I'm sure, are the dates that our engineers are sure they can get it done. We'll take this under advisement, and we'll expedite it as fast as we can. If there's an opportunity to use portable power generators, we'll do that. But I will tell you that we'll work with engineering, and we'll try to expedite that as quickly as possible. December would be the furthest from today that we'll have that installed. If we can get it done sooner, we commit to doing that.
Well, I'm concerned for the police officer, but I have to say that's our job as a city, and the job as the police officer to protect our children in the school area. So my concern is probably more on that side, because our police officers are so well trained that they know what they're supposed to be looking for on a dangerous street. So, Vice Mayor, you had a comment?
No, I appreciate the sentiment of Bill's concern, and I think that the message here is that just as quickly as you can, expedite it. Sounds like this is what just needs to occur. So, thank you.
Mayor, may I ask a question, please?
Of course you may.
I wasn't aware we're getting letters about this intersection. Do those letters not come to council so that we know that there is an issue out of there, or has it only been going to engineering and we're just now hearing about it?
Mayor
What
Lord,
have I missed?
Mayor Lord, Councilmember Campbell, we certainly received requests through the HOA, through residents via telephone and also email. My understanding is that through the GovQA on the computer, they get routed directly to the traffic concerns get routed directly to engineering, as I understand.
Well, shouldn't we know that this is an issue before it comes like this? I mean, what am I for the Q&A? I mean, is council not advised when? Maybe I'm on the wrong page here.
Madam Mayor?
I'm sorry. What was your question?
Well, I don't recall seeing any letters or inquiries from residents about this intersection.
No, it's been.
And if there are, how come it's not coming through council just to let us know the issue is there, or was it when I was gone? Maybe I wasn't here.
I'll let the city manager address that.
Yes, Mayor, Councilmember Campbell. I am not aware of them going directly to council. They going directly to engineering. We did jump on it when we were aware of the complaints, and then started doing an expedited traffic analysis as well to get this fixed as soon as possible. Going back to an earlier comment, we did not realize in advance what the impact of the traffic change of traffic patterns were going to be. So something that did jump up quickly because of the closure of Cotton Lane. So this has just been back really in the last couple of weeks that we've jumped on this to get this fixed. It was taken seriously when we did get some of those complaints that went to engineering.
And it came from an HOA meeting that I attended in the Canyon Trails area.
Right, and also through the HOA
and the HO wrote a letter to the city or notified the city, and when I went to, as a part of that meeting, several parents, and they were irate, let me tell you. And so we also had our engineer there, I think, was at the meeting, but right?
David.
And
David
why don't you
Ramirez.
come forward? Because you were there at the meeting with us, and you heard the parents, and it was one of those issues that I don't think we needed to go to every councilman's and ask approval of looking into this, and that they would present it to us at a council meeting. I think that's the normal process. I don't think you can expect, excuse me, can you hear me down there? You guys got something you want to share? No. Okay. You cannot expect staff to address every little detail from every light and while they're looking into this. So I was there, brought the complaint in, people wrote letters, people called on the telephone. So would you tell how the people reacted that night at the meeting and the things they requested about this?
Yes, Mayor, council members. We were invited by the HOA to attend the meeting. They had a number of concerns. This was one of their major concerns was the was a traffic congestion at this intersection since the time that the Cotton Lane closure had occurred, which had been about a month before the meeting. So we had anticipated that there would be more traffic, and there was more traffic even before Cotton Lane closed. Once they opened the on and off ramps, there was more traffic on Cerebral. When they closed, when ADOT closed Cotton Lane, it was a very significant increase from one day to the next. Right. And we had begun planning the design of that signal even before they opened the on-ramps. We were able to complete the design in about 4 weeks, which was very quick. And as far as the portable signals, it's our goal to get them installed as soon as we can. They're battery powered. One of the very first things we'll do in the construction project, which will begin tomorrow, if this is approved today, is to begin the installation of the electrical feed that will go to the permanent controller, but in the meantime we'll be able to power the portable signals with this power supply. And just as soon as we can get the power installed, then we'll hook up the portable signals. They're run on batteries. If we attempted to run on batteries, we'd be out there continuously changing the batteries. So we're aiming for middle of December to get the portable signals in. We think we'll get them in before the middle of December. We're going to expedite it at every opportunity.
Thank you. And I would like council to recall a subject matter that was discussed on this dais when we talked about closing Cotton Lane, and we talked about the additional, and Vice Mayor, you were very on to that, about the additional traffic that it would cause on Cerebral. So when you connect that story and that discussion, it makes sense that these people came forth. And so the fact that you feel you haven't been told exactly about a street light on a corner, it is a concern. And so I'm encouraging this council to vote for this tonight. Now, I'm going to vote for it. So I'm hoping that I get the support. Any other comments?
I'd like
Vice Mayor?
Well, I just appreciate the fact that you saw this problem occurring. It's a safety issue, and you got on the ball on it and actually expedited the situation, trying to take care of it. Obviously, you don't have a crystal ball. You knew that there was going to be a traffic change, and you were starting to go to fix that situation, but it's much larger than you anticipated. So I appreciate the fact that you jumped on it quickly.
I guess I'd just like to add one thing. We knew that there'd be increased traffic. At the time, I guess until Cotton Lane closed, we didn't know if we thought we would have the same situation 2 years from now when the frontage roads open and Cotton Lane is reopened. So depending on the severity of the increase, we could have gone with the ultimate design, which we are going with now, or we could have gone with a much less expensive span wire situation as a temporary situation for that 2 year period. We obviously, from once they closed Cotton Lane, we were very certain that 2 years from now we would still meet
It's a busy street. It's a busy street. I go up there often. Yes, comments? Councilman Pizzillo?
Just one real quick. I appreciate the quick response, the move. And again, I know you can't get all scenarios, but I got a question for the police chief from the safety standpoint. You know, we had two options. One's a little more expensive. They can bring in a rental a little quicker, or, you know, the officer out there. Do you feel comfortable from that perspective that, and I know that's what they tend to do, but do you feel comfortable with having the officer out there? And again, I'm not driving it by cost, but from a safety standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take every safety, everything we can do to enhance our safety. And like we said, it is a dangerous job. And, we will do what we have to do to protect our citizens.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments? All right, I'd like a vote on this, please. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Oh, thank you. A little late there, but thank you. Ayes have it. We'll go on to the next. And ask the city clerk to read Resolution 12-1508 by title only, please.
Adopt Resolution 12-1508, authorizing the city manager or designee to execute any and all documents necessary to utilize the City of Peoria's traffic signal job order contract for the construction of a traffic signal at the intersection of Cerebral Avenue and Portland Street.
Thank you. Could I ask for a motion to adopt Resolution 12-1508 and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Pizzillo and a second by Councilman Loretano. Open for council discussion. No discussion. Ask the city clerk to do a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
All right, the next item is C, is to consider approving groundwater reuse agreement with Crane Company, Sonder Road, Rivers End. It's nice to see you. We don't get to see you very often.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. You can all hear me now? Yes. I'm pleased tonight to be able to present a resolution that brings benefits to the city. 3 different kinds of benefits will come from adoption of the environmental access and remediated water use agreement by the city. This agreement is with Crane Company, and it deals strictly with the Phoenix Goodyear Airport North Superfund site. It has 2 purposes. One is to expedite future cleanup efforts at that site, and the second is to facilitate our use of a water resource that we have not been able to use yet for irrigation. Phoenix Goodyear Airport North site has a long history, and I just want to bring to mind 2 milestones along the cleanup efforts at that site. In 2006, there was a partial consent decree with the United States Environmental Protection Agency. At that time, Crane accepted the responsibility to handle the cleanup, also called the remediation. In the same year, the city settled with Crane Company, and at that time, Crane agreed, among other things, to provide us with treated water at no cost at some points in the future. The Environmental Access and Remediated Water Agreement then takes that action further. Fast forwarding to 2012, there have been extensive monitoring and cleanup efforts. These are visible on this map in the sense that you can see many, many red sites. Each of those red sites reflects a well where something is being done for the cleanup. Either we're monitoring the quality of the water, or it's being extracted, or it's being put back in the ground at that location. There are 131 such sites associated with the Northern Superfund site. 52 of them are on city property. This agreement will consolidate existing access agreements, clarify how we will handle indemnification and access for all future sites, so that each time as we move forward, Crane is using a new site, we won't have to go through negotiating a completely new site access agreement. So it will have the impact of making it faster on getting to the restoration work that we're all interested in seeing happening. All the existing requirements the city has for permitting and consultation with engineering, community services, neighborhood services, and water will continue. This doesn't affect any of that. They all stay in play. The other half of the agreement treats the option of providing remediated water to the city as a resource. This water will be provided as safe water. It's the treated water after it's gone through its treatment at the Superfund site, and it meets the safe drinking water quality standards for TCE. We are not attempting to use it, and Crane is not offering it for any use in this case other than irrigation. The quality is monitored by EPA and ADQ vigorously at the well sites you saw. EPA and ADQ have approved that this water can be provided for beneficial reuse. They have approved both the volume of water that will be made available for one particular site at this time and the quality of the water. Pertaining to the original agreement in 2006, there will be no charge from Crane to us for the water that we're talking about. The agreement treats a specific place where we already have discussed using this water, the Goodyear Community Park up north of 10. At that site in 2007, a treatment location was established in the northern part of the park close to Roosevelt Canal. Water from that area is available to substitute for existing potable use for irrigation. The park uses about 23.9 million gallons a year currently to water the grass and keep the plants that are in the xeriscape alive. That costs the city about $70,000 a year depending on exactly how much water is required that year. Using the water that is available to us from the treatment center there, as a result of this agreement, Crane will promise to provide us an average of 100,000 gallons per day and increase that up to 200,000 when necessary for peak use in the summer months when we use the most water for irrigation. The state will not require that we put any water back in the ground to replenish this water because it is in a special category as remediated water, and that's been confirmed with the Arizona Department of Water Resources. We have that in writing. EPA has sent us a letter approving the use of this water, and we expect the same from ADQ. As a result of using this water instead of using potable water, the city will realize savings in the range of $54,000 to $57,000 per year. And that's a net because we will have to pay for maintenance of the new pump and storage area, about $5,000 estimate for the year, and we will also have to pay for electricity to pump the water. But there is no cost for the water itself. So we're swapping that out against around $70,000. Do you have any questions about this agreement?
Thank you. Let me just go down and ask if there's any speakers cards first, okay? Are there any speaker cards or anybody from the audience would like to speak towards
No
it?
speaker cards.
All right, thank you. And let's go ahead and have the discussion after they read the resolution. Thank you. So the clerk would read the resolution 12-1509 by title only, please.
Adopt Resolution 12-1509 approving an environmental access and remediated groundwater reuse agreement with Crane Company and authorizing and directing the city manager or his designee to take all actions and execute all documents necessary to carry out the intent of the resolution and the environmental access and remediated groundwater reuse agreement.
Thank you. Could I hear a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
I hear a motion by Councilman Stipp and a second by Councilman Pizzillo. Open for discussion. Councilman Pizzillo.
I had a discussion, I guess, with Nathan, probably about a year ago, similar on this, but not necessarily for the northern park. We had talked about remediated water to help offset some of the costs at the ballpark. Are we going in that direction with this agreement? I realize this water is going in the northern park, but are we anywhere closer in that response? And probably a question maybe for Nathan, then, or maybe you can answer that as well.
We are pursuing that option. That is within the Phoenix Goodyear Airport South area, and we would be working then with Goodyear Tire. We are in discussions with them. There's already some tentative discussions about how the water would be moved from the treatment center to the ballpark, and we will need a similar agreement with them, an access agreement, and then explicit permission from the state agencies to move ahead.
It's my understanding this could be a sizable, larger than what you're talking about right now in savings. So I'd be interested in the status as we start to move forward on that agreement.
We will keep you posted.
Thank you.
That's a good question. Any other?
I have one.
Yeah. Vice Mayor?
Well, I appreciate you bringing this to us, and actually, this is my own fault. I thought some of this was already occurring because I remember when the system was being put in a couple of years ago, because I was there for the groundbreaking of it, and I just thought that when it was done, we would have already been using this water. So I'm glad it's finally happening. But as I was going through, there's a lot of background information with all of this, a lot of paperwork, and I saw the one letter that was dated March 30th of 2011, and it was regarding the actual site itself and talking about the landscaping and the removal of things. And maybe I'll ask Brian at the end of this evening, but I think I'd like follow up to make sure all of this actually occurred, that we got pretty much everything we were supposed to get out of PGA North. Do you know what letter I'm talking about? It was Exhibit C, page 1 of 2. It was Dear Mr. King. Does that ring a bell?
I don't recall that exact letter at the moment, but we can certainly get back to you on that.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, then I'd ask the clerk to do a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Mayor Lord.
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
All right, the last item to consider is to recognize that a vacancy exists on the City Council, effective as of this date, and to appoint a subcommittee to review applications for appointment to the vacant council seat, and to conduct interviews of applicants as deemed necessary to make a recommendation for appointment to the entire City Council. And Roy Massey will present.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. This evening, following Gary's unfortunate passing, we have a matter in front of you to handle the vacancy on the council. So there is a policy and requirements under the city charter on how we go about that. And as the COAC indicates to you, under our charter, you as a council need to recognize that a vacancy exists on the council. So the first action you'll have this evening is to make a motion in a second and recognize that there is a vacancy. Under the charter, at that point you have 30 days to fill the vacancy on the council. Otherwise, the charter requires that if the vacancy is not filled within 30 days, we have to call a special election. But given the timing of the election cycle, it's really not practical at this point because there's only about 6 months left in this term anyway, or 8 months, but 6 months when you get it filled. So what we're proposing this evening is to have the council recognize the vacancy. The city clerk is prepared to post the notice of the vacancy tomorrow on the website. We'll post a notice in the paper on Wednesday of the vacancy. Begin accepting applications as early as tomorrow. The application is attached to the COAC and is on the web in conjunction with this item. And it is the application we've used in the past for filling council vacancies. We'll also have a motion under council policy for filling vacancies on the council. You appoint a subcommittee to review the applications, conduct preliminary interviews of applicants, and make recommendations to the entire council. So the second item you'll have this evening is to appoint a 3-person subcommittee to handle that task. But the application deadline we're proposing is November 6th at 5 p.m. The clerk would be prepared to circulate the applications to the subcommittee the following day, and between November 7th and November 12th, the subcommittee could review these applications, conduct interviews, and prepare the recommendations to the council. To meet our 30-day requirement, we're proposing that we hold a special meeting on November 6th, either directly before or directly after our council retreat, conduct interviews with the 16th. The following week is Thanksgiving, and there's no council meeting scheduled at that point, and sometimes it's with the holidays, it's hard to schedule a meeting. So we'll all be together on the 16th anyway. We thought that might be an appropriate time to consider the appointment of the council replacement. We can conduct interviews if appropriate that evening, consider the matter, consider the recommendations from the subcommittee, and then make that appointment, and the replacement could be sworn in immediately to assume the seat. With that, I would answer any questions you may have.
All right.
But you have two
Thank
items
you.
this evening.
Are there any speaker cards?
No.
All right. Then I'd like to hear a motion to recognize the vacancy.
So moved.
And a second, please.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Campbell, a second by Councilman Pizzillo. So it's open for council discussion. Anybody? Any discussion? So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. So we'll go on to the other one. Ask for a motion to appoint a subcommittee to review applications. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I hear a motion by Councilman Stiff and a second Vice Mayor Osborne. Open for council discussion.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Go ahead,
I
Joe.
like the timelines, but I really liked to make sure that whoever is the committee, that if there's more than one individual who's applying for it, to interview those applicants, the subcommittee. I asked that the subcommittee interview those applicants. And I guess the question I have for the attorney, when they come for a recommendation before council, would that be the time when we could decide either, if they came with a couple of recommendations, could we interview them in an exec session? Do they have to be in an open forum, like any other typical interview where you interview, individuals? at that point for the council if there's recommendations. What are some of our options, I guess, is my question.
Council, it's really your process. It is perfectly appropriate to interview in executive session. As you may recall, last time we did do a public interview.
Yeah, we did.
You could do both. You could have a more in-depth interview in executive session, have a more limited public interview. It's completely going to be up to the council on what you decide at that point.
Vice Mayor?
I would just like to volunteer myself to be on this committee.
Okay.
And I believe that going through this in the past, that the subcommittee will be able to decide fairly
Has
well.
everybody served on this committee? On appointment? Who hasn't served on appointment?
I was on the last one with.
You know, honestly, I cannot serve because of the time frame. I have a case starting that day, so there's just no way.
I just wanted to be fair because I couldn't remember who was on it last night.
I think on the last one it was me, the vice mayor, and Councilmember Sousa, if I'm not mistaken.
Neither Bill nor I.
And
I haven't been on it, but I would be interested.
The two of you would?
Sure.
Would? And Joanne, is that?
Sure.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's okay.
All right. Okay. Let me open. I really should have asked for a motion here, but that's okay. So we're on a motion to appoint the subcommittee. Is that where we're at? Thank you.
That's correct.
All right. So let's do that first. Let's get first a motion and a second. Okay, to appoint a subcommittee to review the applications. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I hear a motion by Councilman Stiff and a second by Councilman Campbell. All right, let's just finish up the discussion. And so we might as well do it in public. I think this is the best way. It's going to be someone from the dais. So, Vice Mayor, you said you'd be on it?
Yes.
And the two people here have not been on it, and I think that's good. I think the public will see that another pair of eyes are looking at this to be fair about it. So we'll ask this. One other question: to do it public or privately, do we need to make that decision out
You
for the
don't
public?
necessarily need to make that decision tonight.
Okay.
What we've typically done in the past at the subcommittee level, they have conducted the interviews in executive session.
Yeah.
Then when we've gotten to the council level,
Yeah.
on occasion they've done a public interview.
Yeah.
But you can wait until the 16th to make that decision.
I
Or the
just know
subcommittee
that. Were you here for the public one? You
I
were
was
here,
in the audience.
In the audience, and how did you feel about it?
It was very interesting. I remember the discussion that council had, and as I sat out there, when there's an election, you're running in the public, so you should be able to speak before the public. So there was some value in hearing some of that. Realistically, however, to have to hear someone say, "Oh, I've been the CEO of this," or "I've done that," that was kind of merely interesting, and it didn't really get to the heart of where you said, "Oh, I like this person better than this person."
Yeah.
So I don't know that it really added a lot to it, and I may have taken up a lot of unnecessary time, and we're really running up against we're cutting this off 2 weeks early because of the holiday.
Yeah.
So that may be something the subcommittee wants to consider.
Councilman Campbell, did you have
I was
Vice
just going to
Mayor?
say, could I add, from that previous time, we did go through the applications first, vet, and did have some, if memory is right, that we did have some interviews, and then it was the final 3 that we did in the open forum. That's how. So there was, executive interview, and then there was the actual open.
That is correct. The subcommittee conducted some pretty in-depth interviews of a number of applicants prior to recommending 3 to the council that were interviewed in the public session.
Councilman Bozzillo?
Just for my own take, I liked the process to the point where the subcommittee, and again, it depends on how many apply. I mean, if only one apply, then that's a different issue altogether. But I like the fact that the subcommittee actually brought them in and had an interview. And then I like the fact that they picked a top tier for the remainder of the council to make a decision. And I like that process. Now, again, I have no idea how many people are going to apply, but I suspect if, more than 3 or 4 apply, then you could probably come up with at least the top 2 or something for the full council to make a decision on. But I like that process because First of all, for any of those who took the time to at least put the app in, we took the time to interview and ask pointed questions, and they also took the time to bring them up front. So I think it's important from a transparency standpoint. But that's, again, my kind of take on it.
Yeah, I think it's hard to go back once we've done it. You know, once we've been out in the public, and then we say, "Oh, well, we didn't like that. We're going to go behind the scenes." You know, it just, it doesn't look it doesn't look good. And I think we recessed into the other room, and we're able then to really, you know, if you're afraid to ask the question out there, or you're afraid to give your opinion out there, sometimes because, you know, these people come forth and you want to be kind to them. I mean, you want them qualified, but you don't want to. I mean, after all, they're volunteering their time, and so you don't want to come up there and really go at them. And so I think you do need that little bit of time just to kind of talk among yourself about something you've thought about. So should we just kind of right now make that decision now that, can we do that at this point, or do we have to?
Direction, that's the process. We'll prepare for that process.
Okay, all right, if you'll do that. So right now, we're just going to we've made a motion. We're all in favor. Oh, I want question.
I do have a question.
Yes.
I don't remember, so I'm going to ask. The same situation as we were almost 2 years ago, is right in election time, et cetera. Yeah. What about folks that are either currently have pulled packets or are considering it? I remember there being something, I just don't remember what it was.
Those persons would be eligible to apply, and I believe that did happen last time, and certainly it would be up to the council to make a decision on that appointment. There's no restrictions.
There isn't.
No.
I thought there was.
I
thought there was.
No.
I thought there was a resign to run issue and some other things.
No, that was with me.
No, that's if they were currently holding office. That's correct, but not if they're just running.
That's
okay.
A kind of a timing and a person who's in office. If I had been less or more, what it would have been that I wouldn't have had to.
Right, being the last year of office.
Yeah. Okay. So, but I mean, when I had to resign to run, there was a time frame. The past mayor was in office so many days,
That's
and
correct.
so that triggered that.
That's correct. If the office is vacated in the first 2 years of the term, then you fill it through special election. If it's in the second 2 years of the term, you have the appointment option.
The only reason that I would have applied for the seat that Gary ended up filling, which was Frank Cavalier's at the time, and I think was told by you I could not. So
I'll double check that.
Yeah, if we can just double check that, because I would hate for us to.
Number of days, because that
I don't know, but I know that you specifically said no, you really shouldn't be part of it.
And you told me the same thing, because I was a candidate to run in 2009 when the vacancy and before they appointed Sherry, and I applied, and I wasn't even interviewed and was told I couldn't do that.
So maybe we could pull that.
Check that.
Check that.
I'm vaguely recalling something about that now. I can't remember what the.
Yeah, now that we're having the conversation, some of it's starting to come back. So I don't know. I just.
You mean I didn't have to resign?
No, you had to resign.
No, I think.
That one I'm sure about.
Mr. Pazello.
I think there's no restriction. What I think it's probably boils down to a fairness issue to give one candidate an advantage over another.
It's a common sense,
that's a whole different issue. So, and again, I'm sure that'll
unfair
come
advantage
in the discussion as we move forward. Because from my perspective, I don't think you want to give any one an advantage over the other. So, but I don't think there's any. And again, you're the attorney, but I don't think there's any restrictions.
I think I remember what the issue was. So. The issue was there was more than a year remaining in the term of office, so then you would have had to immediately resign to run because you would not have been in the last year of office.
Oh, okay.
See, in this case, it's a little bit different because there's less than a year left.
And I'm not advocating that situation. I just want to have all the issues out, all the information out front. Exactly.
Right, though.
Okay.
Okay. So let's want to vote on this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Now we're down to the informational, but before we go through that, I just remind you we have a special meeting tonight after this, so we can take a break and go in or however, but we'll start it here. Does the council members have any comments?
Do you want our events now?
Yeah, where it's on current events.
I'll start.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll just list off a couple things. Attended the general plan meeting. It was really good to see so many people here. Obviously, the GPAC dinner and GAIN last weekend. And thank you so much, Brian. GAIN was great.
Thank you.
And then I also attended the APS information session up at Estrella, and they've narrowed it down to basically 3 different routes. So hopefully it'll be a very favorable route, and they're looking at lots of factors to make their decision. So a lot of the community was there, and I think Wally showed up after I left. So,
And how was just a curiosity on my part? How was the response to the other alternatives?
There's still the alternative that goes to the Gulf Village. Obviously, those residents do not favor that. And then there's 2 that go down Germain Road on the Tucson Electric, and one goes further down. I think that's the choice because it doesn't affect any current residents.
Okay. All right.
And then there's one that cuts a little closer to Cantamilla. So they're looking at cost as one factor, public input. So they're looking at a whole litany of factors. So it was a very well done session and gave a lot of information. So I thought that was very helpful what APS did.
Great. Yes, Vice Mayor.
I also attended GAIN, and what a wonderful event for our community to come together, and I really want to thank staff. You guys did a great job with all your booths out there, being out there with everybody and having smiles on your faces. I really appreciated that. Did attend GPEC's annual event. Attended the Arizona Town Hall luncheon that was on civic engagement, and I got irritated and got up and talked to myself because I didn't like the way it was going. But it was about civic engagement, and so I engaged, yes. And also I attended the Rodell's Foundation's All A's Forum for Education, and they had from across Arizona outstanding teachers and principals, and they had a wonderful panel talking about things they were doing in their schools and for Arizona. And I really, quite frankly, it gave me a lot of hope, because I really, with this kind of caliber in the teachers and principals that we have, I think that we're ready to take that next step for Arizona to be a better state in education. So I was really excited about that. Thanks.
That's great. Yes, Councilman Stipp.
I'm going to carry Gary's torch and continue to travel the world. We were in Italy for the last couple of weeks, so I've missed just about everything that everyone attended. However, I did attend GAIN, and it was great to see a lot of staff members out there wearing their red T-shirts and getting the job done. And it was, I walked away from that having said, this is what we keep talking about when we talk about community, and I think I may even have said that last year, but it was really a great community event, and it was great to see a lot of faces out there, so I was glad to be back in town for that.
Councilman Campbell.
I attended all of the events that Councilmember Laurentano attended, and some of them that Vice Mayor Osborne attended, and I also attended the Faith Community Roundtable, and I took a tour of the Corrugate Wash, which I mentioned earlier, and I was a guest speaker at a PEO chapter in Goodyear. And this morning I visited Mobile, and
how are things in Mobile?
Things are wonderful in Mobile, and the school sends their best to the city.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for doing that. Councilman Bazzillo.
Just real quick, I thought the GAIN event was fantastic. And I'd like to see more of those type of events, utilizing that lawn area with some music and festivals and, community spirit, because, I mean, just the number of people that were there was just fantastic. So I think, with the park itself, the more we can utilize it to bring the community together, I think the better we will be overall. So great event.
Well, I, of course, attended a GPEC Ambassador event on building consortium and inventory on development initiative, and it was quite interesting, and it gave a perspective of it all across the valley, and I thought it was a very good informational. TPC, as well as I did go to the hot coffee cool topics, Total Wine that the city is giving, and listen to Scott Baxter present 100 years of 100 ranchers, and Ron went with me. It was very interesting and well worth it. Then I just want to say that it really is pretty outstanding, the event we had this week with GAIN. Do we have any idea how many people were there? I mean, it's hard to count. I mean, you can't count that. Did you count cars or what we looking?
They gave out, maybe?
Yeah, what are we looking at?
Mayor and members of the council, we absolutely know we're close. We had someone in a bucket truck that put them way up in the air, and they were actually counting people and cars, and so it's not an exact science. We do estimate over 4,000 people, though. That's a lot of people.
It was amazing. I went around and thanked all the vendors that came and shook their hand and said, you know, how pleased we were that they participated, and they were very enthusiastic, and it seemed like they received a benefit from it. They were showing me lists of people who signed up or the things they gave away, so it was just very encouraging. And then we had a pretty good GPEC annual dinner that some of us attended at the Biltmore, and some nice awards given out to people, so that was also enjoyable. Okay, it's over to you, City Manager.
Thank you. In addition, I have a couple of other things just on GAIN, and thank you very much for your participation as well. It was makes a big difference when all of our elected officials are there, and it's just a great event. As you know, we did combine this with the Field of Screams, and I'll get a little bit more later as far as what we're doing this coming weekend. But combining GAIN and the holiday or the Field of Screams actually worked out very well. We, as you're aware, we had the Taste of Goodyear. We had many local restaurants that were providing free food. That's the good news. The challenge was the lines to get the free food were a bit long, but nonetheless, people were patient and did get to sample quite a bit. We had the pumpkin patch. Those pumpkins were gone within 32 minutes. Wow. So they were picked up. I want to say it was around 400 pumpkins or some such number, but they were gone very quickly. The hay maze and just entertainment throughout, just a lot of entertainment. We had 50 community vendors that participated. And as you know, and many of you, or probably all of you, stopped by the tables where we had our department heads, including the esteemed attorney next to me, city clerk. We were out in force and really trying to talk to the public about government and answering any questions. And we thought that went very well. 300 pounds of canned goods for the city's Fill a Need program. Wow. That's a great start. That's awesome. So all in all, staff did an amazing job. We had 22 individuals from the residents, citizens that spent 8 months on this. Then we had several hundred volunteers as well. So a lot of time and effort over the last 8 months to put that on, but obviously it was very well attended and recognized. So thank you, and thanks to staff. Make a Difference Day. It's a busy time of year. This weekend we have another community event on Saturday, October 27th. Hundreds of volunteers will gather at 8 a.m. at two different places, Goodyear City Hall and also at Fire Station 182, which is in a Strat Mountain Ranch. They'll head out and they'll take on a lot of projects, everything from painting homes to landscaping cleanups to maintenance jobs, installing new, and then later some of the same volunteers will install new playground equipment at Parc de Paz as the equipment comes in. And that will be obviously very well supervised, and it will save the city some dollars as well. Guns and Hoses. That's the cops against the fire guys. It's our 7th annual football game. It will be at the Goodyear Ballpark. So it is actually the Police and Fire Unions Associations putting on the event. Starts at the event 6 to 8:30, but we do open the gates at 5 p.m. And since the timing of this Guns and Hoses, and we're taking bets on the side as far as who will win this year, never mind, we won't go there. But since it is close to Halloween, we actually have we call it a Safe Halloween Bash, and again, great efforts by our association members. Safe and alternative to Halloween for families in the West Valley. Fireworks, live music, pumpkin and face painting, trick-or-treating, bounce houses, children's games, and clowns. So folks, bring your chairs, just lounge, blankets, watch a band before and after the game, watch the game as well. And there is an optional, I need to point this out, it's an optional $5 donation per person, $20 per family. And the money that's raised by our police and fire associations, they actually donate that to the Phoenix Children's Hospital to help build the Southwest Valley Specialty and Urgency Care Center. So please, if you're in town, that'd be great to see you there as well.
Yeah, and the public needs to know it's a donation. If you feel that you don't want to donate and you have an armload of children and you want to come in, you're welcome. So
that's correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Just a couple of other things, get through these. Arizona Cities and Towns Week is this week, 22nd through the 26th. And this week is set aside to recognize services that cities and towns provide. So we honor all those at all levels of municipal government throughout the country, and it's something that we all take pride in as we serve our public. So thank you to council, all of our staff that do what they do to really help support our mission of outstanding customer service to the stakeholders, community, and to each other. So very appreciative, and we recognize that this week. Just two more items.
Go ahead.
Upcoming work by Union Pacific Railroad. I want to point out, too, and we'll be getting information, or information will be getting out soon. This was brought to council's attention some months ago. Now the project is actually happening. ADOT, we are advised by ADOT that Union Pacific Railroad is completing the track replacements across Litchfield Road over at MC 85 later this month. So a short-term closure of Litchfield Road between MC 85 and the airport entrance road has to be, that's necessary for them to complete the work. The railroad's consultants responsible for public notification. Their prepared flyers are reaching out to the impacted businesses. We'll have message boards up there for the detours for that couple-day period. The rail replacement itself takes place Friday, October 26th, 6 in the morning, and ends at 6 p.m. on Sunday. So that weekend will be obviously impacted. We'll allow local accesses into the airport, Yuma Road, Western Avenue, those types of things. We'll have alternate routes that will be posted as well, detour signs, et cetera, as I understand. But again, this is Union Pacific Railroad's job. It's not the city's. Finally, a little bit of reach out. Where's the police chief? Right over there. Our K-9 unit just returned from K-9 Trials certification event in Nevada, and this was for all the southwestern United States. Over 60 K-9 teams from all over the Southwest. So we did well. Specifically, Officer Ben Armstead and his pal or partner, Remco, won 3rd place in narcotics detection.
Wow.
2nd place overall.
Wow.
So congratulations. We have one other officer would note, Mike Miller and Buca. They won 2nd place in explosives detection and 5th place in building searches. So this is out of 60, and these are out of the top dogs. So we did very well.
Top dogs.
Yeah. Top dogs.
Top
yes.
dogs. Yeah.
The other is that completes the communication part. I do have a couple of follow-up items that came up tonight. One is we will be responding to Mrs. McPhillin about the retention basins. I don't know if she's still here or not. But engineering, we have been actively working on this. We'll get that information out to her. There were a total of 9 different items that had come to our attention working with her, and we're prepared to get that out to her. There was a copy of the traffic study for cerebral in Portland that was requested. All council members, do you want that, or is that to just Council Member Campbell? Okay. So that will be to Councilmember Campbell. The follow-up on the letter to Mr. King, which was in the exhibit on PGA North, that was a March 30th, 2011 letter, and we had, as a city, had 6 stipulations in there that was noted. We will follow up on the status of those to make sure that they were all followed. Again, that was done back in 2011, but we'll make sure that they adhered to those stipulations. Mayor and Council, that's all I have at this point.
All right, great. Anything else, Council, you have?
I have
inquires? Yes. Vice Mayor?
Just a couple of things. First of all, I'd really like to say thank you and congratulations to a new communication format that you've given to the council. I know that it's being called the council packet, but it has all the different week at a glance, hot topics, council activity update, all those things under one nice, little email, and I appreciate that. I haven't gotten through it all, but I appreciate all the information. I think that I like things neat and organized, and so I really did appreciate that. One of the concerns I did have, and I know that this weekend with Make a Difference Day, door hangers are going to be sent out in Estrella for Yana and Vips, I believe, that are looking to see if there's any people that need help. I do have a concern with the Fry's grocery store closing. That store really was the store for areas of our town that have elderly people and have lower income families. Not only have they lost their prescriptions from Fry's, that area, but there's a lot of issues that's going to occur. And I was just thinking about these flyers, if maybe we need to be looking at kind of going into those neighborhoods again and reaching out to the people, because now that that's closed, I don't know what kind of impact that's going to be on these neighborhoods, and that really is a concern for me. So, I'm sorry? The Chase Bank was in there too. And the Chase Bank, yes. There was a lot of, really tight neighborhood things for neighborhoods that, are a little bit, I don't want to say down, but, could probably use the help. And actually, that was it. It was just those two things. Thank you.
Any other? Yes, Councilman Stipp.
It didn't dawn on me until we started talking about the PGA fund. The PGA North is the Unit Dynamics Crane Company. PGA South is the Goodyear Tire and Rubber.
Correct.
When you're looking at those agreements, there had been some discussion at Historic Goodyear about the Unidynamics property being maintained or not being maintained. I remember reading in a paragraph somewhere that said they had to maintain their landscape. Now that's a big word, maintain.
That was in that letter, actually, that
yeah,
I'm talking about.
That.
Mm-hmm.
So can we just double check that, because I realize that site is, they've leveled the buildings and they're kind of taking care of some of the trees. But what does maintain and what does landscape mean to the legal folks? And is there something we can do with that property? And I believe that there may be an effort already underway. But if we're looking at the agreement, maybe it's something that we can look at talking. If we're talking to people about their responsibility to keeping our city looking.
I know we've complained in the past, and it got cleaned up. Remember? So, but I don't think it's a continuous pattern of being cleaned up.
Yeah, I don't know. So I'm just throwing it out there.
Right.
It's a good question.
We'll get back to you as far as what the provisions were and how that may relate to what difference in the code as well. So thank you.
Any other? Okay, the next meeting will be November 5th. There's no further meeting minutes. There's no further discussion. Excuse me. So we're going to adjourn this meeting, and we're going to have a special meeting. So this meeting is adjourned. What? Yeah. Just let me start the meeting, and then I can start the meeting and then let them.
Yes. Go ahead and start the meeting.
Okay.
Make a motion.
Okay.
And take a break.
Okay, so I'd like to call the special meeting to order on Monday, October 22nd. All of us are present. Upon roll call, a vote may convene into. Let me just go.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we move into executive session.
I would like a motion a second. I got to do this right. To convene into executive session for discussion and consultation with the city attorney, city manager, to receive an update, to consider its position, to provide instruction and direction to the city attorney and city manager regarding city's position in connection with contractual negotiation associated with economic development opportunities. And we need a roll call vote from the clerk, please.
I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
I'm sorry, could I hear a motion?
So moved.
Okay, motion from Councilman Stiff and a second from Councilman Campbell. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye. And
Passes 6-0.
what I'm going to do is give you a break So should we say, what, you need 5 minutes? Is that enough? Okay, so 5 minutes, we'll meet in the back. Thank you. And did I say aye?